Show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot. So grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Okay, good evening, folks. Took a second there for the camera to get in focus, but we are live and we are direct from the beautiful island, Grand Cayman, the Cayman Islands, representing all three islands, actually, right here on the Cold Hard Truth. We got all sorts of breaking news for you guys this evening, so thank you so much for tuning in. Big shout out to everyone who is joining us. Elizabeth, buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué pasa? Dime, what's going on, folks? So we have a lot to inform you guys of tonight. So let us jump straight into the tea. Big shout out to everyone who's tuned in. First of all, a couple of things are going on. The police were successful today in an operation with Mr. Simon Julio Newball. He was actually apprehended earlier this afternoon after being on the run for, oh gosh, how long was he in the run for? Almost a month. I think just a couple days shy of a month. So you guys remember the initial incident where he was arrested in Georgetown. At first, people were kind of thinking, oh, is this a situation like a COVID-related situation? But it turns out that they were actually looking for him, and they went with the K9 unit, and he got away. He assaulted the police, and he ran off and got away. And now Julio has been apprehended, and he is in police custody. So, you know, there were some rumors circulating yesterday that he may have been in the vicinity of West Bay. As it turns out, that information was not accurate. I think maybe they saw someone that they thought looked like him. But as of yesterday, we were actually getting reports that he had been seen in the area of Saxon, the Saxon building right on Eastern Avenue. And in fact, that is exactly where he was, right off of Avon Lane. Apparently he was hanging out there, you know, as I guess as they do. Yeah, so now he is back in, or he's in police custody. And so they have apprehended him, and not without a little bit of a tussle. Apparently he injured a police officer. We don't know how bad their injuries are. We do know that an ambulance was called, and he, you know, yes, was apprehended during that situation. So kudos to the police. They finally got their man. Now, the interesting thing about this is he had actually reached out to, I think he had called 911 or something, and reached out to Bernie Bush through 911 and his attorney to say that basically he wanted to turn himself in. This was around the 5th of the month, and that actually never materialized. That never happened. So, you know, I guess that's that. There are indications that he was hanging out in the Windsor Park area as well. So basically, it seems like from all indications that he probably never left Georgetown. And that probably makes a lot of sense. You know, like if you're a Georgetowner and you know Georgetown, you know the area, you're going to just stay in the area that you're most familiar with. I mean, he is a Caymanian, but even going to West Bay or, you know, East End, there were some allegations that he might have been at East End. He's going to stick out like a little bit of a sore thumb. because people in those districts don't, um, I wouldn't say that they wouldn't know who he is, but he's not going to be able to get the kind of, I guess, protection that he would in town from people kind of giving him a blight sort of thing. I've just noticed that my light isn't on. Woo! There we go, folks. And the Lord said, let there be light. So that's breaking news for this afternoon. Mr. Julio's back, or is in police custody. This isn't his first time, unfortunately, being in police custody. So I think it's a bit of an unfortunate situation, but we'll see what happens with this case. So other breaking news, you're going to hear it first here in Cayman Law Road if you're listening to our show this evening, is that Elvis McKeever was sentenced today. So you guys might remember this story back in May, the end of May of 2019. He was arrested for having some 47 ganja plants. And he was actually sentenced today to 12 months probation and 50 hours of community service. So Elvis is like 60, 61 years old. So he is hopefully joining us on the program in the morning because he is a staunch advocate of the complete, not just decriminalization, but legalization of his herb marijuana. His herb of choice is marijuana. So Elvis will hopefully be joining us. We're going to have a short show tomorrow because I do have court. So I'm back in court myself, good people. And that will be from 9 o'clock. And the attorneys have been restricted to 1 hour of closing arguments. I think this judge is just done with this case on so many levels. On the one hand, it seems like a very simple case, and it has taken an exorbitant amount of time to go through everything and to put it together. So closing arguments tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens after closing arguments, kind of where we go from there. So let's see who is hanging out with me this evening. What are your comments? Elizabeth says, todo bien. Bueno, bueno, bueno. Linda says, hello, Sandy. Hi, Linda. Ingrid, good evening. Gadiel is here for it. Miss Ruby McLaughlin is here. Elizabeth is laughing at my Spanish. Thank you. Trisha, how are you? Yes, Yvette says, good evening, Miss Sandy. Finished cook on time to watch my talk show. Yes, Yvette, I know the feeling. I mean, 7 o'clock kind of sneaks up on us. Like I was sitting here, I'm writing a story and doing some other stuff. And next thing I know, it's like, whoa, it's 7 o'clock already. Let's get it on, folks. Miss Grace, thank you so much for joining us. Lisa is here. Good night. Lewis is here as well. Quite a few people tuned in tonight, actually, 123 of you. Yay. Perla, good night, darling. We can all be at peace now. Well, I dare say that there's probably a lot of other people out there that we should worry about as well. I'm sure Julio is not the only one that's on the loose. At least people knew that he was wanted. There's so many out there that are doing all kind of shenanigans that, you know, they're not even on the police radar yet. They're the most dangerous ones. Michael, thank you. Irvelyn is here. Yes, Grace, I got my hair done, girl. You missed it this morning on this morning's show. I was finally able to get my hair done. Lorraine is joining us from South Carolina. Thank you, Lorraine. We love to have our international brothers and sisters. Sometimes we have Caymanians living in the UK, in the US, all over the world. And sometimes we just have visitors who love tuning into the show so that they can keep up with what's going on here. There are a lot of people who have connections here. They've got family members or they've lived here before and so on. So yeah, they love tuning in to see what's going on. Irvlyn says, Midea. Yes, my love, me hear you. Hola, Sandy, ¿cómo estás? Hey, Kizzy. Dawn is here for it. Shanley. Andine says Midea as well. Yes. Yes, Dawn, the hair didn't come out too shabby. And Jake, of course, is here. I got some #1 fans. You guys are awesome. Melita, thank you for tuning in. Charles Whitaker. Charles the Killer Whitaker. You know, Charles, I was having a moment the other day where I was reminiscing. I don't know if you remember this, Charles. But when I had my first talk show, A lot of you may not know this, but I used to have a talk show back in the day. I think it was around 2008, 2009 on Hot 104. And it was an evening show from, I think it was from 5 to 7. It was like 2 hours or something, right? And that used to be the show. It was called Straight Talk. We were the original Straight Talk. And then our name kind of got borrowed, I think, by Austin when he went over to Star 92.7. But we had the original Straight Talk. I came up with the show idea and I used to do the show. But management was sometimes a little restrictive in what people could say, what people could do. And with me, it has to be unfiltered. Like, people can't be trying to filter me in any way, shape, or form, or it's just not going to work, because that, simply put, is not who I am. If you're trying to filter someone, go find somebody else. That's why the perfect name for this, and I got to thank Dr. Stigney for the name, was the cold hard truth. And this is the cold hard truth. And so we tell it like it is. You don't have to like it, but guess what? There's a lot of stuff in life that you don't like. So I was kind of reminiscing the other day about Charles over the weekend. I said to someone, during the 9 months, whatever, that I had my show, the most memorable episode for me, and we used to be very popular and get tons of phone calls, all that stuff back in the day. Obviously, we weren't live streaming or anything yet, because that wasn't really, as it is now. But we did a very impromptu fundraiser for Charles, because he had a fight coming up. And Charles, like I said, I don't know if you remember this, but we did this impromptu fundraiser. And literally, I was able to go into overtime. I forget in total how many hours I went, like maybe 3 or 4 hours, just having people call in and pledging $10, $50, $100, whatever. And we raised in that one show like $10,000 in pledges for Charles to go towards his fight. I mean, it was just, like I said, the most memorable show for me. It was an amazing moment. It really demonstrated and showed to me that as Caymanians, as a people, we are able to come together for a good cause. And, Charles had been fighting professionally, but was struggling and having issues trying to get his funds and stuff like that together. So the people rallied around him and they pledged and they made their donations. And then, it was just an awesome situation. The next day, I was actually going to Miami in the morning to work on my master's degree. I think I was trying to finish that up at the time. And by the time I got to Miami, I had laryngitis, like I'd lost my voice. What people didn't know is in the studio, because of course, like I said, back then we weren't live streaming where people could see you. But in the studio, the entire time that I was doing the show, I had to stand because I'd had a tailbone injury that had me in so much pain. And by the time I got to Miami in the morning, I literally could not lift my leg into the car. Like, I had to take my hands and drag it over into the car. I couldn't get into the car normally. So I ended up having to go to the emergency room while I was in Miami, and they were like, give me all kind of painkillers, like nothing was working. And it was so bad that was the first time, I might have told you guys the story, but that was the first time that I actually tried acupuncture. And believe it or not, acupuncture worked amazingly well for me. And I know Misha probably isn't listening to this show, but this kind of ties in to the situation with Misha all these years later, is where I got this, the guy who was doing the acupuncture, he was an American guy, but he'd been trained in like China or somewhere, right? So he had proper Eastern, Middle Eastern, like training from the East, and not just Western medicine. And interestingly enough, he was the one who, he didn't just do acupuncture, he would give you a lot of insight into your energy and different things. And he was just such a fascinating guy. But anyway, he was the one who said to me at the time, after I started going to him, he gave me some very insightful things. And he said, you are right where you're supposed to be. Because I was always in a rush, like, oh my gosh, I got to go, I'm doing my master's, I'm trying to complete this, and I got to go rush to the airport. And, this was the time when I would do like, I'd go to Miami for a couple of days, study, and then jump on the plane and then be back in another couple of weeks. And he was like, listen, because I'm always like, I got to go, I'm going to miss my flight. He's like, listen, calm your energy. You are right where you're supposed to be. Even if you miss that flight, which we know you don't want to do, and it might be kind of an annoying, exciting moment, whatever, that happened for a reason. And you are right where you're supposed to be. And he gave me some additional insights. One of these days, I'll share some of those with you guys in terms of just kind of like life lessons. And it was just so interesting meeting this guy. And for years, I used to go to him for my acupuncture, and he really helped to settle down that tailbone with acupuncture. And I discovered the world of acupuncture, which works extremely well for me. I know it doesn't necessarily work well for everyone, but I'm one of those people who benefits from it. And so, yeah, and the benefits for me were way more than that. So, Carla, thank you. Seymour, Ramsey, thank you for tuning in. Um, Charles says our government is also on the loose. We're going to be talking about some stuff with governments. This particular government, there is a motion that they're bringing to the Legislative Assembly on Monday, which I think you guys will want to know a little bit more about. So we may get to that. I don't know if we'll get to it in the morning since we have Elvis hopefully coming on, but maybe on Monday we'll discuss it. Maureen from Tampa. Maureen, big up yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in. Irvlyn is having a little moment here. She says, Jake from State Farm. Jake, I bet you probably get that a lot. And Lorraine says, what are you wearing, Jake from State Farm? That's that funny commercial. Charles says, I remember it very well. Never will forget. I had some fantastic, you know what was another memorable moment for me, Charles? Big up to my people from West Bay. I think now that I think I might actually have West Bay connections. I got family in West Bay. Now that it turns out that probably my great grandmother was in Ebanks. She's probably from West Bay. So there's a really interesting story about Miss, oh gosh, let me think of her name now. I can't think of her name. Charles, you might have to help me out here. This would be Lana May's mother. She's since passed away. Her and Mr. Oh gosh, what was my friend's name? He used to call it on the talk shows all the time, and he loved my show. He's also passed away. Come on, Charles, help me remember some names. Miss Lana May's mother, and then this would have been her cousin. And he was very well read. He read all the newspapers, and he was always calling into the program. Very, very insightful, older gentleman, but always had a lot to share. The two of them, well, Miss Lana May's mom cooked me a traditional Caymanian spread. Like I had all kind of delicious food because we had like a food segment. And so she made all of these dishes for me. And so we were talking about, you know, the different types of foods and Cayman, and it was like so delicious. You guys know I'm a foodie. So I was totally into that show. But more importantly, she got to share so much of the old time traditions and history. Roger's saying Dania. That's not her name, but I can't remember her name right now. Oh, the gentleman's name is like on the tip of my tongue. Oh my gosh. It'll come to me. Oh, I'm so upset that I can't think of his name right now. I wonder if Mary's listening. Mary will remember this. I'll remember it between today and tomorrow. I mean, he absolutely loved me and loved my show. He used to call in all the time. His name will come to me. Anyway, yeah, so, you know, we had just really good rapport. And that's probably the one thing that I do kind of miss with traditional radio is you get the opportunity for older folks who may not be internet savvy or may not have access to Facebook, be able to, you know, listen to you and engage by calling in sort of the traditional way. Miss Gloria, that could be it. I think we were calling her something else, but that could be. This is Miss Lana Mae Smith's mom. Was it Miss Gloria? But she was so awesome. Like I said, prepared all this delicious food, and we just had Just one of those memorable moments when you reflect on it. You thought, "Oh, that was an awesome show. We had a great time," and and then it turns out that she was cousins to Mr. Oh, his name will come. His name will come. Um, so yes. Thank you for trying to jog my memory, folks. I will get that information. Um, I can picture the exact house that he lives in West Bay and everything. I just can't. The name is just failing me. So the other interesting bit of information in terms of news this evening is that some officers out of Jamaica were arrested. Um, Unfortunately for them, for trying to import cocaine, I guess, out of the US. So listen to this crazy story. Four officers, police officers, are said to be involved in this situation. Now, they were caught by US authorities who were doing some sort of a sting operation. But I think they were caught because they were acting suspiciously. So, despite the fact that they're police officers, it looks like they did not do such a great job of, hiding whatever it was that they were doing. So, it's alleged that part of, like, two of them are a couple. Dexter, let me just see. I had to write these down. I couldn't keep track of who they are. So they got arrested 2 days ago on the 23rd in Atlanta, Georgia. So one person got, I think, arrested in Atlanta, Georgia, and two were arrested in Charlotte, North Carolina. So they went up, there's four of them. They went up to the States. They did not tell their supervisors or anything in Jamaica that they were traveling. And they were up to no good, I guess, is why they didn't inform anyone. And they were doing whatever they were doing up there. So they got arrested. I think they'd been watching them or something. So on June the 23rd, they got arrested in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one got arrested in Atlanta, Georgia. They were flagged by security officers for further questioning, and then two of them are said to be married. I think the married couple is this one called Drimar Rayon Graham, and his wife, who made it back to Jamaica on Tuesday. Her name is Arissa Allen. So she's the fourth officer, and she's now in Jamaica being subjected to what they are saying is intense questioning. So obviously they would believe that she is somehow involved in this, as the other three parties, they were all traveling together. So yes, it is a hot mess. I don't know what else to say about that. One of them has their mugshot up on a mugshot website already. He's only 30 years old. And here he is throwing his life away. Just incredibly stupid, if you ask me. Mm-hmm. All right. So that was a very interesting news story. And of course, the police management of the Jamaican Constabulary Force, the JCF, are very embarrassed by this situation. And they have said, listen, it's not good. They've had an issue before, and I think they continue to have an issue with some of their officers, particularly in the St. James region, having had a history of what they allege to be criminal activity as officers, like they're involved with the gangs and the other criminal activity. So, you can't get away with that stuff for long, and definitely not forever. It eventually catches up with you in one form or another. And so, yeah, it's not good. It's not a good look. And it's always embarrassing when, even for us, when we have Caymanians who travel abroad and they get involved in illegal activity and illegal behavior. It reflects poorly on us as a country. I'll never forget, many, many years ago, I used to travel, back and forth. Oh gosh, sorry, to the US. After I moved back to the King Islands. And I remember when I was going, one time I was going into the US and I had a police officer, um, you know, not a police officer, sorry, a customs officer. He was training another customs officer. And I'll never forget that he said, when they were like doing the training and they're like, hey, where are you guys from? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I'm from the Cayman Islands. And he's like, oh, he told the other officer, oh, just let them through. Like, they're basically harmless. They just come here to shop. And I was like, okay, this is obviously before 9/11 when all hell broke loose, right? So yeah, I was like, okay, that's it, cool. And I mean, they never used to drag you through security and do the most. They do it now. And then, as time went on, there were Caymanians who unfortunately breached the trust of the authorities. We've had Caymanians trying to sneak drugs and weapons into appliances and all sorts of foolish stuff. There was a famous case some years ago about a young lady. They were bringing cocaine back in the baby's diapers in the stroller. So we have messed up our own good name, unfortunately. And so it's quite unfortunate that we are now in the same boat as everybody else. So they scrutinize us as much as I guess anyone else in the world. But yes, I mean, there is a criminal element in all police forces, and we have to weed that out. Charles says, I will say it again, and most of our police force come from that nation. So we do have a heavy influence in terms of Jamaicans on our police force. And I think no matter where you're from, when you're on a police force, you are to be held to higher standard. And that is why, for example, some of you notice I'm drinking bottled water. Normally I don't because I have a water cooler at home. But we're going to talk about Royal Bank here in a second. I'm going to tell you why I have bottled water. It's related to that whole Royal Bank thing. So yes, Charles, we got to weed them out because it makes our force look bad. It deteriorates the very fiber of who we are as a community, because God knows if your law enforcement can't be honest and straight up, if the people who work in the court system, the judiciary, the DPP's office, if they're not good, honest, decent people, I think you have need to be concerned. And, we had an officer a few months back who was sentenced to some 3 years for trying to basically con an elderly, a pensioner who has no real income to speak of, out of the only thing that she owns, which is her home. And how incredibly shocking is that, that he thought he could actually take this woman's house from her and get away with it. I mean, as I listened to the case and I listened to the facts and you heard his testimony, what he was trying to get the court to believe, which the judge didn't believe him at all. It was very disturbing to hear these things. And I thought to myself, wow, this dude is just like a con artist. And how he was on the force for as long as he was without that coming out remains a puzzle to me, because I think most people like that, it's normally not the first time when they get caught. They've probably done other shady things before. And so, he's been sentenced to 3 years now. We always hear rumors about other officers being engaged in different types of activity that's not entirely legal. I think that wherever or whenever they find that, they've got to really make an example of them. And Charles, he was Jamaican. I mean, it is what it is. We do have some of our own that go in there and do shenanigans and stuff as well. One of the things that had been mentioned in my podcast back in February of 2019 was the allegation with Matthew Leslie and what he was involved with as a cadet officer on the force. And unfortunately, what came out that was interesting in the trial is pretty much what I said was spot on. Of course, the DPP's office they just glean over all that stuff, because this isn't a case about the truth at all. The truth doesn't matter in this case. So they said that apparently what I believed to have been the truth does seem to have some impact on what the judge will ultimately decide. So it's kind of very, very interesting, but we have shady AF people right here in our own community, and we need to weed them all out, whether they're Caymanians, Jamaicans. I think there is an added insult when you go abroad and you go to somebody else's country and you engage in criminality. Like you should be ashamed of yourself. Like you don't go to somebody else's house and steal from them and act like a straight up fool. And so there is a sense of embarrassment, I think, when this does happen. And it makes people look bad. And unfortunately for Jamaica, they do have a history of officers that are not to be trusted and very corrupt. Sophia says, honest to God, money and greed, along with trying to be powerful, damn criminals. Yes, I mean, they say that a lot of these police officers are working hand in hand with the gangs. They are informing them. Sorry. Next week, I go back to standing for the show. You notice I never yawn when I'm standing, right? Just the diaphragm is, so much better when you're standing. So yeah. So they actually work sometimes hand in hand with the gangsters and the criminals, and they give them all sorts of tips about what's going on and what's happening in their communities when a raid is coming. So it's unfortunate because it gives the criminals an upper hand in any community. And certainly that's the last thing the criminal element needs, is an upper hand. Sophia, thank you for that comment. Patricia Queen says, every police in every country have corruption. Yep. Hello, Morna, how are you? So the other interesting thing that happened today is I had been receiving a number of phone calls about a situation. Oh, okay. That's a bit of interesting news. About a bit of information. I've been receiving, a lot of information about, gosh, what's the name of Royal Bank. So for quite a number of days now, people have been messaging me like, hey, Sandy, do you know what's going on at Royal Bank? The lines are like crazy, da, da, da. Now, I knew that the Silver Thatch utilizes Royal Bank as their bank. And so, of course, Silver Thatch is in the process of paying out $140 million plus in pension money from COVID-19 emergency funds. And in fact, in the month of May, which I understand they've now done 99% of the applications for May, they had over like 10,000 applications. Now, of the 10,000 applications, something like 700 or so, which may not sound like a lot of people, but it's enough people, did not have access to a bank account, or for whatever reason, they had requested a check payment. So they've got to go and cash this check, and they've been showing up at Royal Bank. And what has been happening this week is Royal Bank has been slam busy, and I know they've been busy trying to get money out to Silver Thatch so that Silver Thatch could, do the wire transfers to all of the other banking institutions on island for people who had requested direct deposit. So this morning, I got multiple phone calls. Sandy, what's going on at Royal Bank again? So I decided to pop over there to see what was going on, in light of the fact that I was also informed that an elderly gentleman yesterday passed out in the heat, and the ambulance had to go collect him and take him then to the hospital, I guess, or at least the doctor's office. So this isn't a good situation. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on here? So I get out there. Oh, sorry. I get out there, and lo and behold, the second I get there, before I even start recording, people are like clapping. Oh my gosh, thank God you're here. We need someone to cover this. This is ridiculous. There's like one lady who had been there for 3 days in a row and had waited like 4 hours and hadn't gotten through and had to leave. And there's another lady who was there. This is like her second day. And so basically they're like, listen, we don't know what's going on inside of Royal Bank, but these people are slow as they could possibly be. And this slowness is causing issues because we have to stand out in the heat. They are literally sitting there with a mask on in the hot sun of feel like temperature of probably like 100 degrees. And I mean, this is just absolutely unacceptable. And they're sweating and they're getting hot. And it was just like unreal. So I thought to myself, wow, we need to draw attention to this because this is not good. So anyway, well, I was there. I interviewed a few people, spoke to a few people who were there, and they were complaining, and they said yes, and it wasn't a good situation, et cetera, et cetera. And they essentially, were saying they don't know what the holdup is. But part of the holdup seems like there were only 3 tellers working inside out of they have space for 6. Only 3 of them were working. The second branch, which is in Grand Harbor, is boarded up and closed. I don't know what's going on there. So that branch is unavailable. So everyone's having to go to this one branch with reduced hours and stand in line wrapped around the building. And so we did the interview, and just a really sad predicament because people were just like, this is ridiculous. Like, we've been waiting here for so long. Some people had been there before 8 o'clock in the morning, waiting and waiting and waiting. And they were still not that far in the line. Like, they still probably had at least another hour or 2 to wait. So I went back. I had to go run a few errands. So I went back later on in the afternoon and took them some water. So I'm telling you why I have the bottled water. So I'd gone to Cost You Less. I grabbed a bunch of bottled waters. I just went by and dropped off like, hey, do you guys want a bottled water? By then, the line had thinned out. So I don't know if RBC actually took note of the fact that we were reporting on them and they actually did something about it, because the line was visibly shorter for sure. The senior line, which that is supposed to be from 8 to 9, when we got there after 11 o'clock, the senior line was still very much operational. And, seniors were sitting down because they'd been waiting for so long. And as you guys will know, one of the palm trees, as we were there, like literally fell out of the palm tree. One of the leaves, those big palm tree leaves fell. And thankfully, where it fell, it was not on top of the senior's head, because some of the seniors were sitting on the little, like, I guess they're not really sitting areas, but like the cement circular thing that's like around the palm trees, right? So one little old man, he's 85 years old. He was like, oh, I don't want to get killed out here by a palm tree. So he got up and moved even further away. But yeah, at 85 years old, he would have been, sitting there waiting for God knows how long. And so this isn't cool. I'm asking whoever the powers that are at Royal Bank to please sort this out. I mean, it makes no sense to me that at the end of the day, people should be subjected to, this type of treatment. It's all about customer service. And then on top of that, they're charging people $10 to cash a check. And I'm guessing that's because they're not customers with the bank. So there's a whole situation there. But I mean, like, you knew that you'd have a lot of people trying to cash checks. Silver Thatch are your clients. The Cayman Islands government are your clients. Government payday is probably coming up right around the corner as well. You've got your regular customers trying to do banking transactions, trying to do all of these things. Why not bring on more staff to accommodate these people? Why not, make seats available outside for them? Because standing up for 4 hours, 5 hours in the hot sun, the feel like temperature is like 105 degrees outside. I think that's a lot to be expecting of people, to be honest. And it's really quite unconscionable. And they have on face masks. And let's not forget, someone reminded me as well, that on top of that, they're out in this Sahara desert dust. So not only the heat, they're hot and bothered, whatever, but they're also taking in all these dust particles as well. So yes, it's crazy. So Irvelin says, what a way him jump on the Jamaican police story and didn't jump on the wanted man that was captured. Why? Can I tell you, did he see the headline about one of his countrymen being captured? Okay, I think she's referring to Charles. I'll let you and Charles deal with that. You're both very capable. Talk about Chamber to mess around with their antics. Okay, what are they doing? I haven't really heard a whole lot about Chamber, to be quite honest. So you can enlighten us, Sophia, and what's been going on with Chamber. As far as I know, they've been moving along and paying people. I've had one or two kind of isolated complaints about them, but nothing by and large. So Sue agrees that standing outside in the heat is crazy. Mario says that they're moving to Cayman Bay. RBC has always been like that, nothing new. Oh God, another bank in Cayman Bay? How many banks do we need? I mean, I get that I guess Cayman Bay is a new hub of the island or whatever, but geez, CNB was there first. Scotiabank moved in. Butterfield is moving in, and now RBC. Well, I guess the one good thing about having them all at one central location is if I'm a CNB customer and I needed to go to any of those other banks, I can just quickly walk over to each of them and get my business done. Me, I'm doing it online. I've just discovered the world of doing it online, not just internal banking within my bank, but also just sending payments from my bank to other local banks. So Jake says they're not moving to Cayman Bay. It's just offices, not retail. Oh, so they're not opening up a branch in Cayman Bay. They're gonna just have corporate offices in Cayman Bay. Well, then that's a whole different situation. So Mario, that's no excuse nonetheless. Patricia says them just love call Jamaica name. What a heat. Jake says they are still stuck no matter where they go. Oh, they still suck. Sorry. No matter where they go. So yeah, they don't really have the best reputation for being like on top of customer service. Again, I can't speak from firsthand knowledge because I've never banked with Royal Bank. So I don't know, you know. So yes, Perla says if you don't have an account with RBC, you'll be charged as an outsider. They are ridiculous. So I'm guessing that $10 fee is what they're going to charge you to cash your check because you are not a customer with them. So pretty crazy. And again, government isn't, they don't care. They're not reining any of these banks in with these bank fees. They could wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm going to charge you $1 billion for a fee. And the government is kind of like, whatever, let them do it. So they're mostly self-regulated. And that's unfortunate, really. Very much unfortunate. So Shaquille, thank you so much. Butterfield or Cayman National is the way to go. And I'm going to stick with CNB out of those two options. But, a lot of people do enjoy banking with Butterfield as well. I think of the two, CNB and Butterfield are the most technologically advanced. And I think Butterfield may have edged out CNB only a little bit because I believe they recently redid their online platform. And they also have a mobile app which CNB is working on. I think this COVID dust or whatever, this Saharan dust or whatever it is actually got in my eye. So they have not yet launched their mobile app. So I think that's where, in terms of technology, that Butterfield probably has a one-up on CNB. But I think as soon as CNB launches that platform, the mobile platform where you can do mobile banking from your phone, that's going to be a fantastic addition to what they offer. But yeah, their online banking seems to be pretty good. All right, good people. We got about 10 minutes left in the program. So let me just see what else has been shaking around the world in terms of commentary. There were some COVID results that came in today. I'm just trying to remember what they were. I think there was, hold on one second here. Did we have any positives today? I'm kind of thinking we didn't. Yeah, 0 positives. So we had 533 test results carried out in the last 24 hours, and they were all negative. That is fantastic news. Thank you so much. Reminder that there's some repatriation flights coming up. For Jamaica and Miami. Yes. Okay, so, sorry. Right. Okay, so that looks all right. Jamaica had 8 new cases, I think, from yesterday. So they still, I think, are, because they've opened up their borders, basically. They're getting people coming in from overseas, both Jamaicans and visitors who have the virus. Our government seems very hesitant to reopen anytime soon, and I cannot blame them one iota, because trust me, that's going to be a whole separate cup of tea right there. Let me just see what else we got here, folks. Yeah, so a little bit of good news, I think, in terms of that information. Oh, we have some debit cards. If you guys know these people, like today, all of a sudden we found the wallet for William McComb. We found him, and hopefully he's been reunited with his wallet. There's one for Tafari Ricketts. That's a Bank of Butterfield card. And there's another one. Where did I put my phone just now? Okay, I don't seem to have my phone here, but there is another one. I'll have to look for it. That one came in as well as a person who, let me just see here. As a person who, their card has been found. So if you know any of these people, if you know Tafari A. Ricketts, she can contact us. We have details on her card. There's another one here, which is Nicole Phyllis Carter. So if you know a Nicole Phyllis Carter, please reach out, because we do have someone who's found her CNB debit card. And I think it's one of the newer CNB cards as well. Yes, with the whole wireless PIN number thing in it. So Nicole Phyllis Carter, contact us, because we do have your card as well. Police, the RCIPS has 12 new officers that have been recruited onto the force. So this is, again, a bit of good news. I'm hoping that most of those are local officers who will actually stick with it, because what I find time and time again is, unfortunately, even if they recruit local officers and they come on, they get frustrated very easily and they do not stay on the force. Some of the frustrations we can understand up to a certain point, but sometimes you just gotta fight for what is yours, and knowing that, there are very few on the force. I think there's even more of a reason why you would want to stay there and hang in and continue to fight. So that's that situation. Sorry, I was trying to pull up something here for you guys. Yes, so these 12 officers, it was announced today, and they sent out their press release on this, and their photo of everyone wearing their mask, keeping their social distancing. And so that's a new recruitment of 12 officers who did a 14-week training program. And of June the 1st, officers returned to complete their training, and now have 14 weeks of training remaining as of June the 1st. So they have a training and development unit. So again, they've done it where there's social distancing in place. And yeah, so they have a class of 8 women and 4 men. That's interesting. More women in this recruitment than men. So 9 of the 12 are Caymanians, and the remaining 3 have permanent residency in the Cayman Islands. Very good. So they'll go to the operational duty unit in September, and then they progress with on-the-job training, and they have 2 years of probation on the police force. So Ted commented on that, and he said, more cops to do what? Shaking my head, and I bet it's not one Caymanian hired. Well, he obviously did not read the article. Reading is so important, folks. You gotta be prepared to read. If you don't read, then I don't know what to tell you, but reading's important. That's how you get the information that you get. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. All right, so let me just see if there's anything else that's kind of earth-shattering. Oh, a bit of interesting news coming out of the US. This story made me chuckle a little bit. The US actually has, I'm trying to find my phone because there is something on the phone that I wanted to pull up, but the US actually paid out, now listen to this. This is such a hot mess. COVID payout, the US actually paid out some $1.4 billion, not million, billion with a B, dollars to dead people. So it was divulged in this report by some accountability office in the States that the Trump administration had made a number of errors in paying out money. And normally, apparently, what they do is they will check against the Social Security system, because Social Security, I think, does a much better job of keeping track of who's deceased. So they didn't do that. And so the first 3 batches of payments that went out, because remember that they were talking about how they're sending out $1,200 to all these people and yada, yada, yada. It turns out they sent $1.4 billion to dead people. And the most amazing thing is that they were actually people who were in need of money, like living people, because dead people don't need money. They were living people who were in need that did not get the money, didn't get the help that they needed, but yet $1.4 billion was sent to some, I think the number of deceased were like 1 point something million or whatever. And that's a lot of money. So these astonishing findings were reported by the Government Accountability Report. It's in a new report that has just come out. And of course, this money was set aside by Congress, who appropriated some $2.6 trillion in emergency assistance to people, businesses, the healthcare system, and state and local governments. And imagine 1.4 billion of that going to people who are not even breathing. And so now the government, the Trump administration, is saying that they would like the family members of the deceased, if they have received those checks or however they send it, because I think for some of them they're paying like directly in debit cards and stuff like that. So now they're asking those persons to step forward and return the money. You and I both know that's unlikely to happen. So good luck to the IRS and the Trump administration with getting that money back. I don't see that happening. But yeah, they didn't have the proper death records to cross-check, and they just didn't do it. And so the first 3 batches of payments that went out were a complete waste in some instances. So there's no recommendation on how they're going to get the money back either. You know, I don't know what they're planning on doing there, but somebody get some free money. Like I said, dead people can't use it. But anyway, Evelyn says, my Popeye sandwich tastes so good. You know what? I had one yesterday and it was really good too. And I got to give you guys a little joke. Charles sent me a video with some persons who are extremely overweight. Now, I'm not making fun of obese people, but the narrator of that video was so humorous and so funny. Oh, there's my phone. It's actually in my pocket and I didn't even realize it. So I had my phone in my pocket the whole time. So the narrator of that video had some interesting commentary to make about the persons who were, really obese. And one part of the video, for example, they went and picked up 10 pizzas. And by the time they got home, the cameras like followed them home, whatever. 5 of the 10 pizzas has disappeared with the couple that went to pick up the pizzas. So the commentator's like, what did they do? Eat 5 pizzas in the car? Like there was no evidence of the 5 pizzas. Like the pizza boxes were just not there. So a very interesting situation. But I was telling Charles that as I was watching that video, I felt so guilty because I was sitting down enjoying a little bit of ice cream. I'm addicted right now to this Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I'm going to tell you guys about the flavor later. Foster's Food Fair has it, but they've been running low. So I'm kind of like hesitant to really tell you guys how good it is because I don't want you running and snatching up my ice cream. But yes, so the joke of the whole situation is I cheated yesterday, like totally, and had that same sandwich that Evelyn was talking about. So Evelyn, I know how good it tastes. Trisha says Egyptian dust, laughing out loud. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? RBC is the best mortgage bank. Elizabeth, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like the best bank to get a mortgage with because it's easy to get a mortgage, or they treat their mortgage clients better, or what do you mean by that? They had some issues years ago with someone at RBC who was in the mortgage department actually stealing a lot of money that people were paying down, like deposits and stuff like that. And you never really heard much about that case in terms of what happened with it. So I don't know what happened there, but maybe they don't have the tightest security. Shaquille says, I miss the basketball courts being open. They're coming soon because remember now we're phasing in like level 2 suppression comes into three phases basically. I think the next one coming up is July the 2nd or 4th. So I think in another week we move to like another level. So hang tight there, Shaquille, buddy. You'll soon be able to get to the basketball court. Perla says, please note, Sandra, that the quarantine is supposed to be a lesson to learn, but it looks like it went the other way around, not good. In terms of what part exactly? Nancy, thank you for tuning in. Miss Mary, hi, Miss Mary, how are you? She said that she would also recommend them if you're looking for mortgage. So I guess that means that you can apply and get through with them hassle-free. I think, though, that that's one aspect of banking. But if you know that you're not going to get the support throughout the life of your mortgage, I mean, remember now you're going to have mortgage probably at least for 20, 25 years, right? That might be a good idea to pick a bank that is balanced in their customer service and that thinks about you all the time. Health insurance. So Shaquille says we need to be talking about health insurance and how they're getting away with robbery. Oh boy, that's a whole other can of worms, Shaquille. Did you see Germany opened up thinking that they were doing well? Schools reopened, closed down immediately as 700 workers at a plant. I think I saw something about the plant abattoir were positive. Yes, I think we covered that a couple of days ago about Germany having some issues. Same thing with China. They're having to shut down a bunch of stuff again. This thing isn't anywhere near being over. Let's just be very honest here, folks. You've got to just hang in there with it and see what happens. So someone recommended a song. I was actually trying to find the song, and I don't know if this is actually the right song. I think it is. It's called Corrupted Police by Wayne Lonesome, and it's a reggae song. So I'm going to play this, guys, I'm going to play the song for you guys as kind of our outro song to enjoy as we basically, yes, I believe this is the one. So we're going to just pull this out here and play the song for you guys to enjoy. And do have a wonderful evening. We're back in the morning. Like I said, we hope to have Elvis McKeever from Cayman Brac, who just found out today that he basically got 12 months probation and 15 hours of community service for his ganja plant situation, which I'm guessing he just pled guilty to. It's probably a relatively straightforward case. And yeah, so Elvis will be joining us in the morning, talk about, why he believes that ganja should be completely legal. So tune in about 7:30ish, and we'll go until about 8:30, and then I've got to jet off to court for hopefully the last day of at least kind of the primary stuff. It's closing arguments, and then I will just sit back and await my sentence to see what's going to happen. Are they going to be locking Sandy Hill up? Ooh, I'd have to be live streaming from a jail cell, folks. So make sure you tune in for that one. All right. I thank you all for making this your number one spot to go to for all of your news and information. Big up yourselves. I see Perla says good night to everybody. And I want you guys to get some rest. I've got my project. I told you guys I'm working on a little secret project. I got to go work on that. And yeah, so enjoy the rest of your evening, folks.
It is. Advice is given and please take the warning. Best way to get rid of crime rate and the killing for stop. First of all, we have to clean the force and get rid of all this corrupted car. Straight up to the max, I don't want to attack. It is. When you talk about police, Jamaican police, Trinidadian police, and some corrupted police. We talk about police, Jamaican police, Haitian police, and some cruel police. When you talk about police, Jamaican police, Colombian police, and just smuggling police. When you talk about police, Jamaican police, them are all in a one. Junkies, liars, scam and thief. Yo, we said it, truth not a earth, but the truth of it job. Where the crime rate so high and still it not drop. Those guys are in the force of our taking crime act. I live double life as criminal and cop. Them murder, them rape, them rob, them rock shop. Some no scamming, some smuggle sell gun and sell shot. Big man work and track killing and next starting act. They use the police just to cover them dirty track. Police, Jamaican police, Trinidadian police, corrupted police. The Dabo police, Jamaican police, Haitian police, and some cruel police. We ain't about police, Jamaican police, Colombian police, and drug smuggling police. We ain't about police, Jamaican police. Them is all in a one. Junkies, liars, scam and thief. Yeah, 65% of the forces corrupt the corrupted. Bigger head for the small one up. Most of the good police were in the force them carry a stop. Rich corporal and sergeant and they saw them go. The years are the kids in position in the work. The corrupted get promoted while creating a vote. I feel them untouchable, no guy can't touch. Them a politician make the country a mash up. Police, Jamaican police, Trinidadian police, and some corrupted police. Abo police, Jamaican police, Haitian police, and some cruel police. Where you talk about police, Jamaican police, Colombian police, and drug smuggling police. Where you talk about police, Jamaican police. Them are all in a one. Junkies, liars, scam and thief. Yeah, come let me tell you now. How them corrupt and wicked. Them kill me mad, blood, I'm cold-blooded. Tell lie, me get all the like a record. Corrupting yourself and my family for dead. They shot a 8-man pregnant lady in her head. Second go off accidentally and get acquitted. Look how them brutalize and murder. Kentucky kid, them shot a lot of innocent like water and kill. Police, Jamaican police, Trinidadian police, and some corrupted police. Dabo police, Jamaican police, Haitian police, and some cruel police. We a Dabo police, Jamaican police, Colombian police, and drug smuggling police. We a Dabo police, Jamaican police. Them is all in a one. Junkies, liars, scam and thief. Yeah.